Okay, let's call meeting to order. So our first action item is to approve the order of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. And the minutes of the September 17th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So, let's move on then to Sunny, with the staff report.
Hi. All right, so staff updates and staff development activities. We are still working on filling the part-time positions at Maine and Carlson. And Tech Services has cataloged and released a new set of board games that are now available down at Carlson. I think that there are some repeats that we have at the main collection, but a lot of them are going to be originals, so they'll have two separate ones. So you have more to check out in the catalog. And then Bree, the teen librarian, will be going to Chicago at the end of the month for training in teen advocacy and collaborative learning from YALSA, which is the Young Adult Library Services Association. And that was due to a generous grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. For our upcoming programming, as always, for a full list, visit us at fargolibrary.org. Children's, we have pumpkin decorating coming up on the 23rd and 24th. We're going to have your Choose Your Own Adventure program at the library. That's going to be November 5th and 7th. And then the trains will be coming back once again. The Red River modules display, they're going to be here on the 16th and 17th, and we'll have a story time to go with that on the 16th. Upcoming events for teens, Great Science, that's going to be on the 15th, and then we're going to be hosting 2 sessions of the Decorated Sugar Skulls. That's going to be October 22nd and October 24th. For adults, Jazz into Fall is continuing. It's Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. The next one that's coming up is October 20th, and we're going to have the Kicks Dixieland here. And on the 22nd, we will be having part 2 of 4 of the mental wellness education series. This one's on self-care, myths, strategies, and the mind. And then on the 26th, we'll be having Golden Girls trivia. So we are encouraging people to dress up as one of the Golden Girls, and we will have coffee and cheesecake available. And to finish up the One Book, One Community events, on the 28th, we will be having our author visit with Keith O'Brien. That will be at the Fargo Air Museum, so that is off-site.
And all board members are invited, if everybody got their email in that regard. Excellent.
And we, again, want to thank the Friends, because this was generously sponsored by them. We have a few community engagement events coming up. The 17th, we're going to have Business After Hours. 27th, we're going to have Trunk or Treat. Then that's going to be at the Dakota Medical Foundation this year. And then on the 16th, we're going to have the Pangea event at the Yomcomp Center. And we've got our social media metrics down there if you're interested, but that is it. Any questions?
What is Trunk or Treat?
Betsy, you're involved with this. How is best to explain Trunk or Treat? Because I could just talk about candy and kids.
Yeah, we registered for the event. It's Family Voices of North Dakota, I believe, is who sponsors that event. And then we go and we're going to decorate the book bike this year instead of the library van, like a beach with an umbrella and a little pool. It'll be cold, but we'll give out candy.
Okay.
The significance of the trunk is?
It's usually vehicles that you do, and then you decorate your trunk. So that it's a bunch of trunks in a row, and kids can go one place instead of around the block or
Oh,
in
okay.
addition to, because
Kind of
it's not on
community trick-or-treat
Oh, okay.
candy
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Betsy?
What other questions do folks have for Sunny? I'm not seeing any. That means you answered every question that
Okay,
everybody
good.
had ahead
Perfect.
of time.
That's
So
what we wanna hear.
excellent job, Sunny.
Thank you.
Okay, so we did the staff report. Let's move on to Tim with the director's report.
Yes, per your packet there, you can see activities, quite numerous related to the Sodbuster project. As I'm sure you saw on the way in, it's very busy at this point. Again, the big day for that is the dedication event this coming Friday, starting at 5 o'clock, would be an open house, and they're utilizing our breezeway for food, and there'll be remarks at 5:30 right outside. We're looking at a nicer weather, so we're kind of partnering with the Sodbuster folks. So obviously the board's invited to that. They'll be about 90-some% finished. They didn't have any help with the weather and the blizzards and the rainstorms and everything else they had to deal with. But it's gonna be very, very nice once it's done. If anybody got a chance prior to it, everything being covered up, just the colored brick and just very unique elements that they have with that, so we're excited of that being done.
Tim, when is it gonna be done?
Well, based on weather and what they have ahead of them, probably the end of next week. Obviously, there will be some things that need to come in, like lighting, that have been ordered, and they're still waiting on that kind of thing. Sod is huge, obviously, they want to get that in. And so it might be a week or so before that's fully completed.
Wow. Okay, because yeah, walking past it, it still looks pretty torn up.
It's a work in progress.
But the trees are in, and
Yes.
yeah, but
They had their hands full. I mean, they had a really tight window to begin with. I know we talked about that before. And then as the weather does around here, it didn't do them any favors.
sure, yeah,
So,
okay.
and there will be a programming space, an external programming space that's built into that for us, which we're excited to be utilizing that some sunny day next summer, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're starting in December, right? Utilizing the January 1st?
That might be a bit cold.
Okay.
If anybody has any other questions, per the list there, the big one obviously is all the meetings related to Sodbuster and library department head meetings. And
Any questions so far?
What is the Growing with Google training?
absolutely, what that is, coming up on October 30th, what it is Google has partnered with the American Library Association and looking at providing free training at in every state of the union. And they chose the Fargo Public Library. And so there'll be a series of workshops on October 30th. Registration required, but they're free. And what we have on the docket for that day is for nonprofits, discover digital resources to empower your community. Another one, get your business online, using data to drive business growth. Power your job search with Google tools. So, and we've had several phone meetings with the Google folks, and they're bringing in their own furniture, their own technology, their own people, the whole nine. They have it down to a science, obviously. They're loading in, obviously, on the 29th, firing up bright and early on the 30th, and going all day.
Are they leaving anything behind?
No, not any of their furniture. I don't think. I think some trained folks, and so they're doing a lot of PR. We're working it with them, so it's a nice partnership. It's one of those things that they're doing this all around the country, and we were on their radar, and we kind of worked with them to kind of coordinate the whole thing, working through the state library as well, because they were excited about it. So yeah, that's what Growing with Google is.
Are there any other libraries in the state of North Dakota? Are we the only one, or?
Well, we are, as of right now, we're the only one. They're trying to go to one location per state.
Wow.
Now, the state library is trying to coax them into doing a few other things around the state. That's kind of between them and the state library. We're gonna have our hands full on the 30th, so I figure we'll be busy there.
Is the event already up? Is it up and live?
Yes.
And are people have been invited to it? And
Their PR has gone out. I'm gonna have my little 5 minutes of fame at 1,000 Cups, and there's press releases and various things that have gone out. I know the registration's up and available, so it's up and running.
Any other questions for Tim so far on the director's report? No? Okay, let's move on to statistical reports.
All right, looking at library use in terms of visits, down like 2% over September of last year. That puts us around 5% lower than last year. Program attendance is still strong, about, again, year-to-date, 24% over last year. Volunteer hours is picking up. Pam's done a lot of work to get new volunteers in there for the outreach, and so that looks good in comparison to last September. Internet sign up down a little bit, year-to-date down 14% over last year. The work they did on the web page, it's looking good, up over last year in that regard. In terms of circulation, overall circulation, year-to-date is up just a little over 2.5% over last year. And I just want to touch on something I know that's been a part of the discussion the last couple times, is the count of paperback usage. And Lori, if you want to speak to that. And again, just to be clear, the paperbacks are one of those counts that's not through our system. It's kind of a human affair. And in discussion with staff and everything, you know, I'm never real keen on that. And I'm not, so if the, based on what Lori explains and how it's done, if the board is not comfortable with it, I'm perfectly fine with saying, hey, if it's not in the system and folks aren't comfortable with it as a count, then we can just disregard it. But Lori, if you want to talk about.
So prior to what we're doing now, we relied on patrons to let us know how many they took from the rack. So a lot of people would forget. Sometimes they would tell us as they were leaving and we're waiting on somebody, like, I took 5, and we're like, oh yeah, I got it. And then you might forget to actually scan it. So it wasn't really a perfect system prior. So we did some brainstorming, the circ managers, and came up with a plan where we would stock the racks and then keep track of how many items we added to get a more accurate count. Because obviously there were more gone than what was reported to us. So that's what we changed. And I find that to be true because the numbers have gone up a lot. Again, like Tim mentioned, it's not a part of like COHA. Nothing's checked out on a person's card or anything like that. It's just a separate number that we keep track of, and then we turn in to Betsy at the end of the month. So any questions about how we do that? Or before, it was a very imperfect system. And like I said, not very accurate. I don't think, like I said, we would rely on people letting us know how many they took. And I don't think, they always did that. And sometimes we didn't do it when they told us.
And we wouldn't see that we'd stop providing them. But in other words, if the methodology of how we're doing this is kind of prone to mistakes, and I'm all about, if we're going to have numbers, that it's numbers that we can defend, that are good, and there aren't any like, what is this? What is, it's things that we can stand on. Certainly, numbers through the system, those are the ones we can rely on. I mean, any imperfect system, it's going to be here and there, but we just wanted to clarify that, and I mean, it's really up to you. We want to provide you the kind of information you want. You know what I mean?
Can I ask what collection we're talking about? I missed that at the beginning.
Paperbacks.
So yeah, not all paperbacks in the library, but I talk with my hands, obviously, here. They're uncatalogued paperbacks. So these are paperbacks, they're on a specific rack in each location. We might have 1 or 2 racks, but they're strictly, we get them through donations from patrons, and we don't catalog them or add them to the, collection. You can't search them. It's just a browsing collection. People take, as many as they like. We really don't have a limit. Some people come in every week and take 5 or something.
Romances and Westerns.
Yeah,
primarily.
and like thrillers. There's all sorts of stuff in there. But anyways, yeah, and when they start getting ratty looking, we just toss them because they're not in the system or anything like that. They are handy when we have someone who comes in and they can't apply for a library card, they don't, fulfill the requirements to get a library card, we can send them to that rack. They could get something there. Some people like them for traveling. They're going to the lake, stuff like that. So there's no due date on them. It's strictly just this, we call it a read and return system.
And so the question is, should this be tracked in the data?
Right, in the actual circulation numbers.
It sounds like it's not fully tracked, so I wouldn't include, I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts on it? It sounds like the puzzles, in children's, there's puzzles down there. We take them, we bring them back, and you guys aren't tracking that, but if you guys want to track that, what do you guys think?
I think the more information we have about traffic at the library, the better. I think this is a much better system for counting it, other than getting, I don't know, facial recognition software or something, for paper-based.
Well, I think the point, though, is that it's not accurate information. It's sort of a guess, is what it sounds like.
It isn't at this point.
Was
We
before, but they've
we
changed
keep
the
track
fact-
of how many we put out, and we know what full is. So when there's empty spots, we fill those, and we keep track of those numbers.
Okay.
So we're keeping track of the numbers as opposed to relying on the patrons to let us know the numbers. So I would argue that it's more accurate at this point.
Okay.
But again, it's, a separate number that we
We could make it a
Yeah,
separate
so-
number, however you want. I just want, in other words, I have a real sense, I want the numbers, people feel good about the numbers.
Right.
And it's not just, everything else is counted this way, and then this is counted some other way, or what have you. Obviously, they provide a niche service, and we're gonna continue to do that one way or the other, obviously, but we want you to be comfortable with what we're giving you, essentially.
Does it impact the numbers significantly?
Well, I don't think it'd be significant, given the overall numbers that we're getting. It is what it is. It's a nice little service, and we'll continue to do it. If by the way it is, because we don't want to go through the extra effort of cataloging them and putting all the staff effort into. No, that's not what they're for. They're for just putting on a rack, and if folks need them, they need them,
Well, if everything else on the circulation list is items that are checked out and have to be returned and are tracked by people's library cards, maybe it does make sense to take the paperbacks out and put them in their own category and just track those separately,
with
since
that.
it's a totally different
We're fine with that.
system,
We're fine with that.
That would just be a difference in presentation.
Yeah,
Would
And it's
that be,
apples to apples, I guess.
yeah.
would that be a lot harder to track it separately, or,
No. It would be just this, it wouldn't be on the spreadsheet. It would just be a separate number.
oh, yeah. I think that sounds great.
Well, voila.
Good-
Are we
Good
all
job
in
of-
It just wouldn't be in the spreadsheet, Betsy. There'll be this little piece of paper that says 640.
Good job improving that, too. Good job. I love that.
It wasn't my idea. It was one of the circ managers. I can't remember who, but we all loved it, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good job, staff.
Yeah. And thanks for coming in today. For a second, I thought we had a member of the public. And it was going to be
the day.
But no, I did recognize you because I've seen you at the
The
library.
name
before.
tag and everything.
Okay, well, should we continue with, does anybody have a question so far on usage? No, okay, should we hop to finances?
I have one question
Yeah.
for Tim, I think. I see that the number of programs is quite a bit higher this year than last year. Has staff changed, or is staff doing okay with that amount of programming? It looks like a couple hundred, like more than a couple hundred more programs in adult on-site programming.
Well, that's a wonderful segue, Whitney. We have, again, Lori's primary discussion this evening, and you can see it on the screen in front of you, is community engagement programming. And this is through the, kind of a genesis through the strategic plan. And so there's been a growth, obviously, in programming related to taking library staff and services and basic card registration, renewal, and all just actual circulation off-site to numerous community events and what have you. And obviously Lori's gonna be walking us through that. And I think that's the primary source of the additional programs that we have that are counted on there.
Well, it says on-site.
Oh, on-site?
The on-site ones are up a couple hundred this year, so I'm just curious about that.
I think it's just everything that everyone's doing. Certainly, coming through a very active summer reading program, all the cultural events that we've been having, certainly the gardening events, you name it. I think there's just a real wellspring of events or programming that's been going on. You know, and I think there's a lot of different staff involved in programming now across the board, both professional and paraprofessional. We're trying to utilize all the talents of everybody as best we can and cover the bases as best we can. So yeah, I think between that and everything that folks are participating in, and I don't know, Lori, if you have anything to speak to that in terms of on-site. She's also the head of the programming and promotions team, so.
So I think the adult on-site, those numbers that you're looking at would be attendance at those programs, if I'm
Oh, so what she's
looking at that correctly.
The number
So,
of programs is like 38.
Okay.
right,
Right, and then the attendance.
So our
Attendance
attendance is way up for September.
I apologize. I just know folks have been busy. I'm sorry, when is that, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank
Great.
you. Thank you. I thought that was the number of programs. I was like, you guys, wow, that's a lot of programs.
Well, it is still you guys, wow, trust me.
No, 38 is still a lot of programs in a month.
Well, what other questions do we have for, any other questions, guys, before we move on to financials? Okay, let's move on to the finances.
Looking at the donation summary, we received $500 of kind of a memorial gift for Dr. James Council, former board member who passed away. We also received restricted donations of just over $3,000. Big chunk of that was from a patron to help with bindings for the North Dakota collection, anonymous patron donation for that, which is nice. $1,000 from the West Fargo Friends for the One Book, One Community Author event. $100 from the Moorhead Friends, also for One Book, One Community. $300 for the Friends for the Crafternoons, and a total, another $800 also for Crafternoons. On the expense side, $250 for the One Book, One Community ads for the forum. That was from the Friends. The $670, that was pretty much all Friends for various programs, including finishing up the children's summer reading program book purchase, the Friends Seed Library funding, that's Sunny's big project in the spring, Friends Crafternoons money spent, an anonymous donation expenditure for program music for Northport, additional money spent, also Friends donation for the outreach for the magnifiers for folks, and a little over $65 for the Northern Narrative event refreshments. That was also the Friends. So thank you, Friends, for all your support and our anonymous donations as well. And $91 also from the Friends for staff development on the expenditure side for the donations.
Okay, questions so far?
I have a question on that. We'll keep going
Oh,
with
yeah.
questions. So someone donated for like binding of books. Do you guys have like a list of things the library needs that people can donate to specifically? Or how do you usually do that?
We certainly have especially just as we go forward through a fiscal year, a list of things that obviously, I mean, the staff do a very good job identifying that on a department level, programming level, and a lot of that is identified certainly as we go through the fiscal year to approach the Friends. And so folks are in a constant way of identifying needs. And, obviously our first approach is to the Friends in that regard.
Can I ask who the friends are?
Yeah.
It's a separate 50C3 group at, is essentially a nonprofit, and they group of volunteers that work, they have their little bookstore in the main library. They have bookshelves that they sell at both other locations. They do book sales, and all the profits of those sales go to support all the requests that we bring to them. And it's an example of some of the things, obviously, various programs, items, programming items, all this different stuff. So they're essentially a nonprofit 501c3 of volunteers that raise money that we can go and ask to support our programming.
So how do people become friends?
They have, if you go to
membership
the
drive.
bookstore, you can go and register. They have little applications, so.
Yeah, they actually do a membership drive.
Become a member of the friends.
Yes, yeah.
Oh.
And when
I need to start working on this, you guys. I need to get a bunch of friends here.
yes, it's great. And this is not just Fargo specific. There's like it's friends.
It's
There's
it
national
is a,
program?
right, it's a standard, model for libraries around the country to have this fundraising separate 501c3 arm to assist, and especially if there's large donations that they can go through the Friends. So
Can the library promote the Friends program? Like the library itself? Or no?
they have a link on our website.
Link on
I
the website?
believe,
Okay,
And certainly,
great.
we've always been as strategic as possible with that partnership to provide them to support things like One Book, One Community, summer reading program, with high-profile things where we invite the president of the Friends to come and speak. And if like at the 10-year anniversary event, we had the president of the Friends, because they supported a lot of those programs for that. They're talking about the Friends, so it's a good symbiotic relationship that we do in terms of that.
How many friends do we have?
The total number of registered, I think at the last meeting, oh goodness,
Like
Run over there
tens,
and find out.
hundreds, thousands?
on the board of the
it's
friends.
a couple hundred.
Hundreds?
It's like
Okay.
300.
Well, members, but I think they have their own board.
They have their own board, right,
They
and
have their
that's
own board.
around 7 or 8.
I think they need more, or at least
They could always use, yeah.
more board
Okay.
members. But and the board members are the ones that make the decisions to approve funding requests that.
It might be a little hard for library board members to be Friend Boards members at
Yeah.
the same
Right, I think there's a
time.
conflict.
That might be a little,
Yeah.
And we can help get friends for the
Correct.
friends.
That
Okay,
is correct.
That's
Yes.
help with. Okay,
Help
great.
with the friend drive,
of the
yes.
friends,
the Friend Drive
but you
identification.
can't be on the board.
Okay,
Yes.
that's perfect. Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's so much talk of friends, and I was like, who are
Yes,
these
who
friends?
are these? And those are great questions. Sometimes we forget. I think that we.
We're talking library.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's a
friends
language-
here, and I'm like,
Yeah,
we're
and
all
so-
friends.
Good
No.
for you for asking those questions, because I feel like a lot of people just have gone through the meeting and just been assumed they knew what the friends were.
Generally, the Friends, we, per the agenda, they're offered the opportunity to come and talk as to what's going on too, so.
Yeah.
try and
If
give
people
them
want to
that.
like donate to the library, they would donate to the friends.
They can
Oh,
do either.
They can do either.
They can do either.
Oh, okay.
But you go to the library a lot. You know the book. When there's book sales.
Yes.
So that's the friends.
Yes.
And
Sure.
yes, because technically the library's not allowed really to sell anything. So it's not like the library can't make money. And I don't think the friends they're a nonprofit, but yet they help drive sales, and they're like a fundraising resource for the library.
Yeah.
They do a tremendous job of what they're able to do with just selling those books.
Yeah,
It's amazing. It's just amazing, so, yeah.
It is. Your first question about, I think that would be a great idea about, it almost reminded me of, around Christmas time where you could donate, I'm,
Like the Giving Tree.
the Giving Tree where it's like,
name,
yeah,
like
pick a
child in
name.
need.
James is 6 and he needs pajamas. I don't know if that's like a fundraising, is that kind of what the question, is that kind of what you had in mind where the library could identify, we need binding, some of the books needs binding, and so somebody wants to donate,
Like Sonny's 22 and he needs like a new encyclopedia or something. Like his
Yeah,
name's on. No,
well-
I'm joking. Like.
I
Anyway,
would
that's
say,
off
I would
topic,
say
sorry.
though, that we are, staff and everybody is continually identifying things.
but is the public aware of it, I guess is my question. Is there a way for the public to know where they could they could decide, hey, that would be a great, I want to
I
sponsor
think-
this specific.
I think given that we have, certain projects in the near future that we want to approach, if you remember our conversation in regards to corporate sponsorship,
Yes.
I think I really want to get that, I really want to give that some focus and direction and get that up and running. And because I think there's some real partnerships, there's some real profile aspects to that discussion that I think that would be really beneficial to us. Certainly, we get approached, and the anonymous gifts, and you can see that in here in terms of individual patrons and folks from the community all the time, and we meet with them, and staff are always ready with a list of stuff, and that's typical of what we've experienced, we've had at Northport. We have somebody that wants to support, and they don't want a lot of news, they don't want a lot of focus on them, but the staff do a very good job. It's very quick to identify what they need in that regard, so.
Is there any downside of creating something more public where there was a list of things where people could, is there any drawback to that where that could be a focus eventually, where we identify stuff where, maybe somebody doesn't even, it would never cross my mind to donate for book bindings, but if I was aware of it, and I saw that when I was checking out my book and I see a list of potential things that I could donate to and I think, I see the merit in that. Let me get my checkbook. Is that something that we could do, or is there any drawback to that?
Well, I would say this, as a city department and funded through taxpayers, I think in some ways the corporate discussion aside, because there's some kind of benefit on the corporate side for them to partner, that's the idea. On the individual sense, there's this, I'm supporting you, and what's wrong? Can't you figure out how to do your operating budget that you need all this really basic stuff? I guess if that's a direction the board's interested in, I guess I'm not opposed to it. I think I think to advertise that, I think that's tricky. I think especially when you're looking at asks, especially in the public, it's always good to look at when you're going to need that discussion. And in my mind, it's often you really want to have that discussion at, when you start focusing on capital projects. That's where you really need that ask. That's where you really need to have that traction, that communication, that really clear, scope of project that you want to communicate, how it's going to benefit the community. To kind of come up always with little lists of this and that and what have you, I think between certainly the folks that approach us, certainly between the hard work and generosity of the friends, it's tremendous amount of what we get accomplished through that process. And I wouldn't want to lose focus on the kind of communication, the kind of ask, the kind of scope of ask that if and when we get to that point, to have that conversation and not have it unfocused, if that makes any sense.
So you're saying no right now and focusing on like larger, like
If
corporate
we have to take it to
sponsorships
the
and,
public,
yeah.
correct.
And that's
the
totally
way I
fine.
see it.
I think that's understandable. I mean, what do you think?
I think your answer made it, the complications sound complicated.
Yeah, there's an optics side of this that I think is an interesting point to bring into the conversation about, because it is a taxpayer-funded institution and then coming to the well again and kind of, that's an
Especially
interesting.
if the scope is not of such a community impact. It's more of, we need book bindings. Well, don't you have a materials budget to figure that one out, And, so yeah, that's just where, obviously, I'm open, but that's, if it asked, again, Whitney, you're right, that's my initial thought.
Sure. Well, what do folks think? Does anybody have kind of opinions
Well,
about?
I think it would need like some research if that is an appropriate thing. Are any other libraries doing anything similar? Like maybe they're not, and maybe it's not a good idea. Who knows? I don't know.
And maybe,
I'm not a library.
from the aspect of considering the overall budget from the city, if we start focusing too much on donations, maybe the city will look at that and say, oh, well, you don't need as much money from the city as a part of your budget because you can raise $100,000 every year from individual donations. I mean, that's another thing to consider when they're trying to.
Couldn't they do that with the
trying to cut budgets.
corporate sponsorship partnerships as well, though, in a way?
Well, those are something where they're
Those are
getting a benefit.
much smaller amounts, truly, that we're looking at.
The corporate sponsorship?
Yeah, it's not looking at hundreds, thousands of dollars.
Well, do we think we generate hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I'm just
from
throwing
that?
something out to think
know.
about, I'm
She's
just
an
saying to
optimist.
think about,
Sure.
Just trying to be, realistic.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
are things that they.
It might impact the
You're
budget.
in charge.
So it sounds like you want to focus on the corporate sponsorships.
Correct.
At this time.
Correct.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's been a discussion, there's been work, we're in the process of putting together actual PR material and this kind of thing, and I wouldn't kind of, just let's give that a chance, essentially.
Steps. Okay. What else do folks think? Do folks have other thoughts or?
I have a kind of a spin-off question
Great.
that, I guess I fight an instinct that's informed by other boards I've been on, but whenever I see grants and zero, I notice it, and I'm just wondering, is there, on other boards that's been a red flag. Is there a time, or is there a place where I should be concerned about? Is there a time of year we should see more under grants, or is that simply not applicable here?
I would say, to answer that, is that grants, I would start by saying this. Our greatest economy that we have in our organization is staff time. To accomplish all that we accomplish. Now, anybody in grants, they have their place, and we've utilized them in the past, again, through capital process and buildings, that we've utilized them for additional stuff, for furniture and this kind of thing. On a general basis, grants are time-consuming. They're extremely time-consuming in terms of staff time. The major source of grants for libraries in the state of North Dakota is through the state library. And the amount of money that they have for the need that's out there, and I've been on the North Dakota Library Coordinating Council for a good 5.5 years or so, and we basically work to approve, people, all the various libraries across the state apply, and we approve or disapprove or what have you, the grants. And I can tell you that through my experience of being on that committee and going around the state, that the need for those libraries is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And the amount of resources for the grant rounds, for the biennium that the state library has, is no way near what they need for that. And given our resources, given the strength of what we see coming in terms of donations through the Friends, management of operating budget, that there's two things. A, there's the economy of staff time that should be considered going into this, and whether that grant really is meshed with the goals that we're trying to accomplish in terms, especially if it's especially programmatically. The other thing our grants is, it's not a nimble process. You really, I mean, there's a whole process to it, which is significant. We have a very creative staff, we have a very engaged staff, and I like the nimbleness that we are able to do in terms of creating programs, putting on programs, getting the stuff up, running, and done through our own resources and through the Friends, which is very time, if there's an economy of time that we achieve there. And also, I don't want to, based on the need out in the rest of the state, and I've heard this oftentimes from the state librarian, that we, based on the resources that we have, that money be utilized on the grant-wise out in the rest of the state for those libraries. Because there's libraries out there that don't have money for books. I mean, it's extraordinary. And they have a really strong person there running the show, and it's amazing what they do, but they do need resources. So unlike a standard 501c3 where grants would be huge in terms of operating and some programmatic aspect, or like the health department, which really does a lot of government grants based on health programming. That's just my thought, and that's why we don't do a lot of work currently with grants.
So I guess my question was, should I be concerned, or should we hire a grant writer?
I would say that wouldn't be money well spent.
Okay, so it's
I'm
normal.
not concerned about it.
Well, that's basically what I'm asking. Is it something that I should be concerned about?
Okay. More questions? Okay, we're not quite done with the finances.
Sure,
We'll keep
looking at
going.
operating, the summary of expenses versus aggregate budget through 75% of the year. We're just under 72% expended. Obviously monitoring that and really looking at our other discussion is identifying needs through the end of the year and utilizing that to accomplish those needs. Feel good about the end of the year in that regard. Revenue, you can see through the end of September, just over 42,000 revenue accumulated.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Tim on the financials? No, okay, so we'll move on to the Friends of the Library report. There is no Friend of the Library individual here, but hopefully they are soon, so Whitney can meet one of them in person and put a
Please still
face.
say thank you, friends.
We do still say thank you, Friends, because they are a huge supporter of the library and make a lot of stuff possible for them, so, for us. So, thank you, Friends. Moving on, there's no unfinished business, so we'll move past that. We do have new business and an action item under one of the subcategories here, so let's move on to the new business and start with the overview of community engagement programming.
Okay, so I took a moment or two and did a pretty simple PowerPoint for you guys as well, just to kind of lead us through the 10 minutes or so I'm gonna talk with you here. I guess just so you know, I'm Lori West, Branch Services Manager at the Fargo Public Library. I am based out of the Carlson location, and I'm also head of the programming team and pretty active in community engagement as well. So, first I thought I'd talk a little bit about why we do it. With the latest strategic plan, we did come up with 4 values, which I really feel strongly about and think they're important to us. One thing with the values, we want to be engaged with our community. People always can't get to us, and we want everyone in the community to be aware of what we have to offer. So that's one of the reasons that we make a point of making this important for our organization. I know you are all familiar with the strategic plan as well. I pulled out 4 of the goals, and I truly think community engagement probably falls under all of them somewhat. For sure, for programming, goal 2, we do a lot of remote programming. We're currently adding a program we're going to do at Gigi's Playhouse, which is newly expanded on the south side. They do work with people with Down syndrome of all ages. So we have our teen librarians going out there next month to do a program on site with them. Our collection and services goal, when we're out and about, it's another way for us to let people know what we have to offer in terms of services, our new collections that we have. We can sign people up for library cards. Definitely a win-win, getting ourselves outside of the brick and mortar walls. Partnerships, this is a key one for us. It's just a way for us to partner with other organizations, businesses in the community. We can be at community events. We can do talks at different, maybe like Rotary Club, different things like that. We can also host tours within the library. So just on Monday, yesterday, I talked to a PEO group at the Carlson Library. And marketing, we want people to know about us. We want community aware of us. So it's a great way for us to help spread our word. It's also good for us when we're out and about in terms of staff members, I think. It allows us to network with different organizations and people too, so. All right, so on the screen, I have a picture of our book bike, and this was at Streets Alive this year. It's kind of an example of what we do at some of our events. As you can guess, it takes a little bit of programming and coordination to get all of this out on site to somewhere else.
And that bike is not as easy to ride as it may look. You load it up with a bunch of books, and thank goodness we're in Fargo where there aren't as many hills, but
Yes, he has a
it
good
has
point.
its own physics going on there.
Yes. People have to be trained how to ride the book bike, so. Community engagement is not completely new to us. It's something that we have been doing in the past. This year, though, we have taken a more structured approach because we are looking at doing more of it. So some of the things that we have done this year, a committee was established. We surveyed staff members to find out what they were comfortable with, like, do they want to learn how to ride the book bike? That was on there. Are they comfortable making library cards off-site? So those are just a few of the questions. So we surveyed staff. We are scheduling staff from all departments now. So this is something, we're still doing all of the stuff that we normally do. We have children's department, story time, we're ordering books, we have reference services, we have tech services, they're processing books, we have our outreach department. So in order to do this, we're pulling from different departments. There are definitely different departments that are interested in doing this as well. So scheduling the staff, we established a budget this year. Right now, this year we're just tracking our budget, how much we're spending, but next year's budget, we do have some money that is going to be just for community engagement, and that would cover booth rental and other things like that. We've organized our supplies for the events. When it was just a few of us doing it, all of us kind of knew where things were stashed and we would just grab it. But now with more people helping us, we, have a closet. We've actually outgrown our closet, but we have tubs of things and everything's all labeled. So we've got some very organized people on staff.
They're librarians.
We're librarians, so we got it covered. We have developed checklists as well, so if someone is going out and they're not super familiar with it, they can sure reach out to someone who's done it more often, but we do have checklists that we have made for people also, so they can look at things themselves. We reach out to organizations and kind of keep our ear to the ground in terms of community events happening and wonder if we would be a good fit for them. So we're doing more of that than we used to. And I added be creative and be flexible because you just never know. Creativeness comes in with, a lot of times we'll want to have like a little activity for maybe children or if there's families, we kind of want to draw people in that way. Being flexible, sometimes you're in an outdoor event and it rains or it's 40 degrees or, there's just things. So you just have to keep that in mind as well. So what have we done? I had to include Steve Hubbard, our probably longest tenured librarian. He was out in the park with me this year. We've done things that we've done in the past as well. So gathering on Tuesdays, that happened this summer. That's part of the Fargo Park District events. We are active with Jefferson School. They're the City of Fargo's adopted school. And so we're pretty active there. We have participated in Play Day at West Acres, and we'll be doing one again now in October. The police picnic is something we do every year. Streets Alive. Paradox Comics had us at one of their events in September, I believe, so that was kind of a fun one for us to be at. We also go to the family workshop, our family history workshop. That's a genealogy conference. It was held in Moorhead this year. We're doing story times at Head Start. We've done one at the WIC office and Business After Hours, which is a chamber event. And that's not a complete list, just a few of the things we've done.
And most unique is the silent reading program at the Front Street Tap Room and also at the Hodo, correct?
Yes, we have done both locations. We have a silent reading party scheduled for November 3rd, actually, at Front Street. And it's from 3 to 5, and you're all welcome to come. So I thought I would highlight the Red River Market. That was a really fun one for us this year. We were able to be there 4 times. They're located fairly close to the library this year, so that's neat. I think we have seen more people come to the library after the event or before the event as well, so it's been a win-win there. It's a great time. I've got some photos. We have, again, creativeness on staff, so our story time here, it was a pirate story time, and Sarah and Lauren are up there hamming it up for, I think, kids and adults, the way it looks. And so that was a great thing for us. We had over 1,400 people stop by our booths. That was for all 4 events that we were at, all 4 dates. And I wrote down, 67 new library cards were made at those 4 events. So that was definitely successful for us. I was just going to talk briefly about the book bike as well. So we made it to about 10 events with the book bike this year. We got it last year, but later in the season, it needed a few tweaks to make it a little more stable and whatnot. We were rained out a couple times this year with the book bike. It's not good in the rain. It has a wooden box, so we're always worried that it will warp and never return to its normal shape. So we've kind of just limited it to days where it's pretty sunny. But I must say it's really an attention grabber when we are out and about with that. So some of the new events that we went to this year, we were at the MSUM Planetarium. The children's department had some events over there. It tied in with our summer reading program, which dealt with space this year. So that was a fun event. We were at a number of events over there. We were able to be at the Native American Commission picnic. That was something new for us. We participated in Fargo United, and that is something that the police department puts on. We were there with also YouthWorks was there, Sanford Health. They were giving away free bicycle helmets and fitting them for kids. That was a really fun neighborhood event. It happened at Ed Clapp this year. So we were at the NDSU Union. Betsy was there, and so we tried to lure college students over with things and get them signed up for cards. So it was something new for us to try, and we'll see if we'll do it that next year. And we also were at the Crossroads Powwow this year, which was a really cool event. That was a very regional event, so there were people who would stop by our booth and we talked to them about library cards, but they're from Manitoba or, South Dakota or something. But I think it was beneficial for sure for us to be there. We had an activity so people with kids could come by and stop. A lot of people stopped by just to see what sort of books we brought. We tailored what we brought to each, really to each event we do that. And they would swing by and just kind of see what sort of books we had and maybe if they could find them at their local library. So a few upcoming events for the rest of this year. We're going to be at Charism at their McCormick Park site coming up in late October. Something new this year, we're going to be at the City of Fargo Benefits Fair. And we thought, what a great way to really talk about what we do to other employees of the City of Fargo. There's close to 1,000 people that are employed by the City of Fargo. We have all sorts of resources, the ebooks and audiobooks. So I thought this would be a good place for us to be at. We'll also be at Pangea, which is over at the Yumcomp Center in November. And we already have a booking for next year. This group reached out to us. The Home and Garden Show wants us to be there, and that's in 2020. So I should add, organizations, like I said, are reaching out to us, and we have had to make choices. We can't do it all, things are getting booked. I know there was an event at the zoo, Zoo Boo or whatever, Boo at the Zoo or something. And we really wanted to do one of those, but we just were already booked, and so we weren't able to do that. There's another one Chalk Fest, I believe, was also at the zoo this year, and that's through the Arts Partnership. And we have a ton of creative people on staff, artistic people on staff. I thought that would have been nice, but it just didn't work for us.
And it got canceled too.
Oh, did it? Well,
so don't worry about that one.
I won't. I won't. Next year. All right. So I threw in some numbers. So thus far this year, so this would have been as of probably today, we've done 78 events, and this includes both off-site and on-site tours. We do count community engagement as some of those organizations that reach out to us and want to do a tour on-site. So like that PEO group, some of the schools, it is community engagement, but they're coming to us. We try to differentiate it from a program in that, like a program we promote, we make a poster for, so that's how we differentiate those. And thus far with those 78 events, we have reached over 8,000 people. Like I said, when we do our checklists, different things we've established, we also are keeping better stats this year. So we're keeping track of how many library cards we've made. We have the little clickers, so we're trying to keep track of how many people we engage with, how many items we check out, just all sorts of things, how many crafts we make, so numbers are good. And in looking at the numbers from 2018, this is probably close to 2,000 more folks reached from 2018, and we're not done with 2019 yet. And the last slide is Amber at the Fargo United event. Really a great event. I'm so glad we were able to be there. We are making connections with the community, with individuals. It's really a great thing, and I'm super excited to do it and glad we are doing it. Any questions?
Tell us more about that bike.
Oh, well,
It was an idea, I know Lori approached me, I don't know where the genesis, was it?
Sarah
just-
Nelson, actually.
Sarah Nelson is our jack of all trades librarian and identified it. And as soon as I heard it, I said, yes, this is something we have to have. Absolutely. And we went about this locally, correct?
Yeah, we ordered the bicycle from Workman's Bicycles, but we ordered it through Great Northern Bicycle Shop. And so it got shipped there, and then they were able to, like, it needed some assembly, so they did that. And then we had the box built by Dom's Designs. They're local as well, or Kindred or something. So, and he was very generous with his, we did pay for it, but he quoted us a very nice price for it since it's custom. And yeah, it's been great. Like I said, it's an attention grabber when we're out and about with it. We load it up, and I don't ride it, but people do ride it in different places. It's kind of a trike, so it's got 3 wheels total, 2 in front, small ones, and then 1 in the back.
Any other questions for Lori?
I think you guys are just doing a great job.
Yeah.
I see the programming a lot, and you guys are just doing awesome. At the Red River Market, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
thank you. Good
Yeah,
job, staff.
definitely. Thank you. It's super fun to be there, so, yeah.
Yeah, I echo that. I think it's great that you guys are not waiting for people to come to you, that you're going out and you're being proactive about that, and it seems like you're touching every possible group that you can, and you're thinking about that. You're aware of how to reach different groups, and,
Well, I can speak for my experience of going out, especially with Chamber After Hours, and Lori's been there too. Inevitably, everybody comes up and says, "Oh, you guys are great." So it isn't like this, oh my God, what are we how we dodge this, It's always like, you guys are doing a great job, like, especially a business after hours, like, I just got to town. I just got a job here, and I don't have a library card, and it's like, oh, here you go. And so it's rewarding in and of itself. And again, the toughest thing for us is, again, the total amount of time that we have available. And again, what Lori's talking about, and she mentioned this, is the 78 programs and the 8,000 people, and that's on top of everything else that's going on. That's on top of the day-to-day, everything else that we have to do. And we're trying to find that balance, and it's a constant thing to make sure that how we do this, that we do it sustainable, that folks don't get to the point where they're so exhausted and burned out or what have you. But we're excited, and it's energizing to be out in the community. But it's a constant balance that we deal with.
well, thank you for coming, Lori.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
I apologize, but I have to go.
I have 3 minutes too. I'm sorry. So-
Well, we still
The
do have a
swimming
quorum if
lessons,
everybody else
yeah.
stays put, because I know the next item is an action item.
It is. And if I could be real quick about this, and maybe we can go back, but just for the sake of the entire board here at this moment, this is, when we're looking at this, on the second floor of the main library, there's a up area, and everybody's got the floor plan in front of them, which is currently primarily print, reference, and microfilm readers, a number of microfilm readers, which, as that area is currently posited, is woefully underutilized. And looking at goals, strategic plan goals, basically 5 and 6, 5 being, maximizing of infrastructure, and 6 being marketing. We worked on an idea of what, do we need an area to merchandise our collections and utilize in more comfortable, inviting seating, multi-use seating, display areas. And I met with Image Group Architects, and worked on this, and they've identified, what you see then in the following pages are examples of said furniture and tables, really related to current furniture and tables that are up there already. And kind of different schematics for the merchandising shelving. The estimated project that you see there of just over $47,000, in conversations with Image Group, they thought that could be lower based on their experience of moving different similar items in terms of the furniture involved. The key discussion is for the board, again, looking at the proposed project funding sources. The action from the board to do this would be on the utilization of the unrestricted donations of the amount posited and the endowment distributions. Obviously, operating amount, that's easy to locate, certainly within the 2020 budget, and I believe the Friends would be amenable to support a purchase of a merchandising shelf item. I think this is, the precedent in terms of the board utilizing the unrestricted donations was for the incorporating the meeting room at Northport, which was a larger project, and it's really made all the difference for programming up at Northport. And I think this is also a larger item, certainly for an impact to utilize underutilized space and get an opportunity to really merchandise our collections on the second floor. So essentially what I'm asking, I initially thought that Richard Moorhead from Image Group would be here this afternoon. I need, pending whatever questions, obviously, that the board has, but what I'm essentially asking the board action on is the okay in terms of the unrestricted donations and utilizing the endowment distributions that we receive, usually the end of February, beginning of March of each year, which previously we've just been rolling right back into the principal.
Jan has a
Question for you. So I'm assuming this is 2020,
Correct.
and I'm not understanding why it's not in our budget that we've submitted already for 2020, our city budget. This is external from the city?
Correct.
This is strictly
You know,
our
I,
decision?
obviously, that I really looked at operating and capital as kind of a first things first. I think this was a further discussion that, you know, we had at the admin team level of really what we're doing, you know, and looking at the strategic plan, you know, and then obviously we want to achieve what we're going to achieve in terms of operating for 2020. But I think this, something like this, I don't think this would get a lot of traction in terms of the ask, especially on the capital end. But I saw an opportunity based on the overall cost, based on the precedent of how unrestricted donations had been utilized by the board in the past, as an opportunity to do this near term with current resources and not put it off.
So that's my second question then. So I understand the endowment and the operating budget and from Friends, the 24,000 in unrestricted, so you're proposing spending that in 2020, but it's 2019's?
That just rolls over because it's donation money.
Yes.
In other words, it doesn't go away. That is maintained year to year to year. That's under the auspices of the board
Okay.
to act on. It isn't something that disappears because it's not operating. It's
So what
people,
is,
it's money that folks give us that hasn't been designated for anything specific.
right, unrestricted. So I guess then my follow-up question would be, what is the total balance in that unrestricted? Because that's not reflected in financial statements. That's a year-to-date. If you've got an accumulation, where is that?
That is in, if you look at the donation summary. Now, Betsy, you might want to speak to this. Under the unrestricted donations, you see the total of 25,513. Do you see that under donation summary? It's the second line on the revenue, on the top side revenue.
Yes.
There's a line, the second line down, unrestricted donations.
Yes.
But
That
keeps a
was
running
for the
total.
calendar year, and you're saying you've accumulated,
And the previous year, you see carried forward is the first line there, the first column of unrestricted of 21,424.
so in fact, the 25,000 is the rock-solid number of both what we generated this year and existed in the fund prior to.
With one slight caveat.
Yes, the
That
caveat
that
is
Betsy's been working on.
we're looking into what the discrepancy is there. I think it's from like 2011 when the Northport project was done. Something in this spreadsheet wasn't updated, I think, long time ago before I started here. The total per the city in that account right now is $24,663. That's the amount rolled over from the past several years.
So that's the amount that we're positing as available.
I see.
And obviously, between now and the timeline for this project that I've identified, really based on endowment distributions, is first quarter to kick off after the first of the year, essentially. Now, obviously, the 24,663 could be more, but again, that's up to the board how they want it. But does that answer your question?
Very much, thank you.
I have a question about how do we utilize, because we've generated revenue, I think north of $40,000 this year with copier and late fees and, $42,000. Just a question about, what do we use that fund for?
Oh, here's how that works. Essentially, what I provide based on a 12-month look back is an estimate of what we're going to generate in terms of that type of revenue, not donations, but revenue through operation. So I say, okay, when I'm presenting my budget and you'll see it when I do my budget presentation, you see those various amounts like miscellaneous revenue, fines. So I make an estimate based on a 12-month look back. So the city says, okay, Tim, you're estimating $70,000 of revenue that you're going to accumulate over the next 12 months, starting January 1. So what they do then, as of January 1, say, okay, we're going to provide you what you're estimating you're going to accumulate over the next, for that fiscal year. So we essentially get that money up front based on our estimation.
But it's worked into the operating cost.
Correct.
Got it.
It's kind of part of total, you have
Sure.
general fund.
Yep.
Is the huge 99.999% of everything in terms of operating. Then we have our little thing of operating revenue that we identify. We get that as January 1, and then obviously the city accumulates that operating revenue through the course of the 12.
Got it. What other questions do we have?
Do you need this voted on at this meeting, or can it, because it'd be nice to have someone, like, have you had, are these only people you have come to with for an estimate, or, I don't know, I just don't know standard cost for things. Because like, the
Again-
armchairs are like $2,200 each, which is, a substantial amount for, armchairs and things like that. They just don't know if that's like a common amount.
Again,
or...
I had hoped Richard Moorhead, again, where that conversation is, they're gonna look for opportunities for cheaper examples, and we've worked with Image Group over the years, going back,
They helped design
yeah.
the new,
And I have every confidence in that relationship that we're not gonna go wrong in terms of that. I would, yes, like the board to act, I was hoping that's why everybody would just stick around long enough.
Because I have to head out to my children, because they have someone with them right now. So, yeah, it'd be great to hear from Richard or or the person from Image, he said might come, or what was the name? I don't know.
Richard Moorhead.
Yeah,
To present on this.
I don't know.
You need to see him in person.
Or just hear a little bit more about this project. It would be nice.
Well, specifically,
But I have to head out, so that's why I won't be.
I move we adopt the proposed budget funding sources for the project.
Well,
Second.
discussion, there's four of us, so four of us would have to be, all four of us would have to be, on board.
at least 3.
Discussion?
Okay, so discussion, so right now,
I just don't know about the funding. I would just need more education, I feel like, to vote on it. I don't understand the full funding sources, being new to the board.
Sure.
But if you guys are comfortable with it, I'm totally fine. If you guys want to vote for it, I would just need more information to feel like I have an educated vote on it.
Sure.
So I'm totally fine with other people voting.
If we did have it, if we heard about it, is there a rush on this? If we heard about it at next month's meeting, on the 19th, is that something that,
Well, I think you have a motion and a second. I think.
right,
when it-
You guys are welcome to vote. I mean, I just won't be able to vote for it until I would have more information about the project.
sure, so,
I'm willing to ask,
Yeah, yes.
obviously, specifically why those parts, the parts, in other words, the different areas of it identified is, especially in terms of the unrestricted donations, especially based on precedent of how those have spent before. Again, before it was for a project, a significant project, to a specific location, like the Northport Library. And I think this is an opportunity similar to that, to make a difference in existing space, especially in light of strategic plan goals based on marketing and utilizing the spaces that we have. Because underutilized space, we only have so much space. And we want it to be livable, we want it to be alive, we want it to be places that folks want to go, and we want our collections out where folks, it catches their eye, they're taking it, they're checking it out, so that it's utilized. Certainly, and again, through the discussion with Richard Moorhead, there are cheaper examples of the furniture, and they're more than willing to go that direction for us. And again, in my experience with working with them, certainly going all the way back to when I was first here, coming in cold to the main building project, it was tremendous. That was a tremendous experience to get through that successfully, under budget and on time, and fight a flood all at the same time. So I have perfect confidence in that relationship with Image Group and what they're gonna do for us in regards to that. And certainly this is another opportunity, the Friends, to really get their name on a big project. And actually utilize money that obviously we've been accumulating since the Northport project back in 2014, 2015. So I just see this as an opportunity. I see this in line with strategic plan goals. I see the need. I see the opportunity to utilize resources that we have to, that I think they're at the scope that the expenditure would be warranted. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it, to find a scope of project, to have an opportunity to kind of everything come together in terms of strategic plan, a space that is underutilized, resources that are needed that need to be expanded for a large scope project, timing, certainly within our current 3-year plan. So that's kind of the direction, thought process behind it.
should we further discussion on this? I know Whitney expressed that she has to leave soon with her kids, so I want to make sure that we honor that. I guess my question was, if members don't feel comfortable about voting about it today, is there a rush on this project? Are we able to discuss, two other members had to leave early, are we able to discuss this at the November meeting, or is this something that is more
Well, that's up to you guys. Yeah, I mean, if that's the direction, again, you have a motion and a second, so you have to act on that one way or the other.
Okay,
So that's up to the board.
okay, okay. What does the board feel? Should we hold off on, until more people are present, and maybe at that time, Mr., I'm sorry, I keep blanking on the name, but the person from Image would, if he's able to make that the November 19th meeting, maybe that would be helpful to answer some
I
questions.
don't feel like I need to ask him any questions. I mainly don't understand the unrestricted donations, endowment distributions, those kind of things. I would need to ask more questions about. But I mean, that can happen. You guys can totally vote for it. I feel totally comfortable with that. But for me to vote, I would feel like I need to be more educated. So
Sure.
on the actual funding sources.
Sure.
I don't fully understand, but being new to the board.
Sure, sure,
So I'm comfortable with a vote.
okay.
So I call the question.
And you guys just need 3 to,
Correct.
okay, yeah.
We need 4 here.
I will stay for a vote.
Okay, okay.
If you guys feel comfortable with it, if you fully understand, I would just need to ask more questions to fully understand funding, so.
Okay, okay, so we can go forward. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
And I will just abstain.
Abstain.
Abstain?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Perfect.
You voted?
I am in favor, so I'm voting yes. So, okay, so,
Hey, you let me know whatever you need,
Yeah,
whatever
I was
explanation.
gonna ask if we could meet and to discuss, so I understand, so I can vote in the future ones.
Yeah.
So I apologize that I wasn't educated pre this
no,
meeting to
that's,
understand this.
especially the endowment can get confusing, and we've had discussions, on board meetings where we've talked about the endowment at length, so I
Okay.
think that's a great,
Wonderful, I'm glad that worked out.
yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
working with me on that one.
Yeah, okay, so we have that approved. On that action item, public comment, there is no public here to comment. The next regular meeting is November 19th, and this meeting is adjourned.